Well, I had to go halfway around the world to find him, but and I had to drag him away from his new bride. But here he is back on the channel. Warren Redlich, how's things going over there in Thailand?
Things are great. The new bride is still asleep, and I just got off the exercise bike. So it's possible I look a little sweaty at times, but I'll do the best I can to hold it together.
Well, if your plans continue to be as they were, that you're going to start a new family, you do have to stay in shape.
Oh no, that's 100% the vision is. I made this decision 3 years ago at age 55 that if I'm going to have kids, I have to do everything I can to extend my healthy longevity, not just longevity, but healthy longevity, so that I'm there for my kids, not just there alive for my kids, but there to be able to, that where they don't need my help.
Right.
Sorry, where I don't need their help.
Their help, yes, right.
So, I'm 58 now. At age 80, I want to be able to walk up a flight of stairs, without help. Right now, I can run up 3 flights of stairs without breathing hard. And it doesn't, when you recognize how much damage 20 years of aging can do to you, how much you can take away, it's like, I'm probably not going to be able to run up a flight of stairs at age 80, but can I walk up a flight of stairs without somebody helping me?
Yeah, yeah.
And can I walk a mile without help?
Well,
right.
So if we get the right president in, we'll have RFK helping you make some decisions about your health.
I'm not interested in politicians helping me make decisions about my health. You asked me before we started recording, what am I passionate about? And I failed to say what I'm most passionate about right now, which we were going to talk about batteries, and maybe we still will talk about batteries. What I'm most passionate about is, even though I have never liked Donald Trump and I still don't like Donald Trump, I see a very clear distinction. Normally, as a libertarian, I just vote libertarian.
Right.
I don't see the
we
big
know
difference
this about
between Republicans and Democrats. And the distinction I see, I just had this conversation with a libertarian friend who I don't think shares my view, obviously. He still doesn't see a difference. And I said, no, here's the clear difference. Okay. I am an Elon Musk believer, right? If there is a prophet that I follow in this world, it is Elon Musk. And he's not just a prophet, he gets things done. And if you were looking towards the future and you want a brighter future for humanity, you want humanity among the stars, you want humanity to shift off of fossil fuels, you want dramatically lower cost of goods and services through robo-taxis and Optimus, humanoid robots. If you want to cure brain diseases, if you want global internet access at low cost, not to mention interplanetary communication at low cost. If you want to eliminate soul-crushing traffic, if you want safe, honest artificial intelligence, there is one person who is working to make all of that happen and more. Yeah. And his name is Elon Musk. Now, when you look at the two candidates, right? So maybe you're not a believer in Elon Musk. People who are watching this video, maybe you're not a believer. Maybe you don't believe all the stuff I just said. You can ignore that Neuralink just started curing paralyzed patients and is about to start curing blind patients. They have 2 paralyzed patients they're already helping meaningfully.
Right.
They're about to start helping blind patients. Okay. Tesla really led the transition to sustainable energy, continues to lead the transition to sustainable energy, along with Chinese EVs.
Right.
And this, by the way, the Chinese EVs is not, I don't think Trump is any worse than Harris, but I think the United States should allow Chinese EVs in, and both parties oppose that.
Yeah.
Solar, battery storage, all these things, Tesla is leading in all that. SpaceX is clearly leading in space. So if you don't want us to expand into space, and you don't want us to transition off fossil fuels, and you don't want to cure brain diseases, and you don't want to cure blindness and paralysis, okay, I guess you're not an Elon Musk fan, but you don't want all those. I mean, if you're a degrowther and you want to everyone to go back and live in caves, well, okay, then Elon's not your guy. But if you are a believer that these are all good things that we would like to happen for humanity, Donald Trump roughly supports Elon. He's not perfect. He might cancel the Inflation Reduction Act, which Elon didn't actually support.
Right.
It's good for Tesla shareholders in the short to medium term.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary.
Right.
But by and large, he supports Elon. He went to a launch. He says mostly good things about Elon, about Tesla. He'll say bad things about EVs once in a while, but he's mostly good and not on that stuff. And he's supportive of the space stuff. Kamala Harris wants to arrest Elon.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you couldn't make it more plain. They arrested people don't understand. When they arrested Pavel Durov in France, that wasn't about Pavel Durov. That was a message from the national security, the United States government, from the Biden-Harris administration, from the national security state, that Elon, you're next, right? We can get Durov, we can get you. The Brazilian government's war on Elon and SpaceX and X, that government was installed by the United States government. That's a Biden-Harris supported government. Biden and Harris have said nothing. Biden's press secretary was asked about it, and she gave a word salad answer and basically said she didn't know that much about it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than saying, no, it's wrong for Brazil to interfere with X and it's wrong for Brazil to target SpaceX, rather than issuing a strong statement on behalf of an American company being targeted by a foreign government,
Right.
we know that they're really behind it. And the reporter was a Brazilian reporter, I think, or a Latin American reporter, asked a half-assed question, didn't follow up and didn't push. Because you can't push, if you push them, they'll kick you out of the White House press pool. And if you want free speech, Elon's fighting for free speech. Oh, I'm worried about disinformation, misinformation. Well, then we should probably stop government from talking about things like COVID because they lied to us. You asked me what I was passionate about. So, and then Gavin Newsom just passed a law,
Right.
criminalizing making parodies of political people, of politicians, so-called deep fakes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom just signed a law.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom is the Democratic governor of California, Kamala Harris's state, right? They are pushing to criminalize speech.
Right.
And she will pack the court. I don't know how much of it she'll be able to accomplish.
Yes, right.
But it's her clear goal. She has clearly stated she intends to pack the Supreme Court. She says she constantly lies. Just as an example, there was a comment. She was being interviewed, and she said, "We're not taking anybody's guns away, but we're going to ban assault weapons." And in a previous talk, she'd said there's 5 million so-called assault weapons. There's really 20 million, 30 million, 50 million AR-15, AK-47 style rifles out there. And she said at one point, you may think you're doing everything okay in your home, but we're going to come in your home and make sure that you're storing your guns properly.
Right, I know. That was amazing.
So First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment. I think they violated the Third Amendment recently by putting FBI agents were using somebody's house, which is effectively stationing troops in someone's home, without their permission. Due process under the Fifth and 14th Amendments is out. Jury trial with this dispute with what's happening right now with the FAA fines on SpaceX.
Yeah, I was interested in hearing from you on that. I know you've been posting a lot about it. So what exactly?
I just read the Supreme Court decision, SEC versus 𝐒𝐦𝐚𝐲, and essentially what that dispute was about was the right to jury trial. That if the government is going to fine you, large amounts of money for something, that's not a function. There's a concept in law called exhaustion of administrative remedies.
Right.
That if you have a dispute with a federal agency, and this is probably applied in state governments as well, that you have to go through the administrative process that the agency is set up before you go to federal court.
Right.
And under that doctrine, when you go to federal court, you get a judge, not a jury.
Right.
And the Supreme Court in SEC versus 𝐒𝐦𝐚𝐲 said, no, if you're going to fine somebody a substantial amount of money, and there's more to it. I don't want to make, it's not that simple. But essentially, if you're going to punish somebody, well, that's a criminal prosecution, and they have a right to a jury trial. I'm pushing it a little bit by the language. I don't know if I want to say it's criminal, but that you have gone to the point where people have right to a jury trial. So we've got the First, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, 14th Amendments all gone, right?
But if we back up,
we have them saying I think it was, I don't know if it was Justice Jackson, 𝐒𝐦𝐚𝐲, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
One of the judges was like, why are we paying attention to what a bunch of old white men said a few hundred years ago? Like, well, because that's the constitutional design. Like, what did you study in law school?
Yeah.
So for me, like, leave out the what damage they're going to do, what's going to happen with abortion, what's going to happen with gun rights. For me, set all that aside, okay? Because you can make whatever gun laws you want.
Yeah.
I lost my guns in a boating accident. Good luck for that. I mean, literally when I left the United States, about a year ago, I made sure that my rifles were secure, and they're not going to find them.
Right.
Right. I know where they are. I don't want to say it's impossible. They're unlikely to find my rifles.
Right.
and I have two scary black rifles and a scary black pistol that they would want to confiscate, and they're not going to find him. And there are easily 10 million riflemen who can make a 500-yard shot, right? I can't make a 500-yard shot. I can, under the right circumstances, I can make a 500-yard shot. And you can't have a tyrannical regime when you have 10 million citizens who can make a 500-yard shot, because any tyrannical official, you're going to, at some point, you can make a 25-yard perimeter or a 50-yard perimeter around an official, right? Maybe 100. Apparently in Donald Trump's case, you can't get to 130 and have a safe perimeter, but the ability to keep a government official safe at 500 yards is always nearly impossible. And so I think you're going to see, so anyway, I don't worry about that. I call it the gray man revolution. The gray man, that's a whole nother conversation. The gray man revolution will happen if they go too far.
Right.
But fundamentally leaving out that, all that chaos and conspiracy theory stuff, it's just like, do you want a bright future?
Yeah.
What bright future, what long-term bright future does the Democratic Party offer? Which, they're surrogates, the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Mark Cubans, they're I don't even know if Zuckerberg's on their side anymore, but what bright future do they offer? Are they curing brain disease? No. I mean, Mark Cuban is sort of lowering pharmaceutical prices a little bit, right? Who are the people in the Democratic side who are getting us to space in a meaningful way? Because Jeff Bezos hasn't gotten to orbit yet, and I'm not sure he's really on the Democrat side anymore. He's been kind of quiet lately.
Yeah, he's been kind of
on the Washington Post. The Washington Post has been carrying their water a bit, but I don't know. But what's the bright future that they offer by comparison to Elon? So in this election, normally as a libertarian, I don't see a big distinction between Democrat and Republican. And on the Elon issue, it's a very, very clear distinction.
Right.
Donald Trump is generally supportive of Elon. I'm not saying he's 100% supportive of Elon, but he's generally supportive of Elon. He generally wants to let Elon run, right? Let's see what Elon can do.
Right.
And Kamala Harris wants to stop him.
Right.
And I don't think they could be more plain about it.
Very clear.
She has said, I think she has basically said at points something close to that she wants to arrest him. And then she's demonstrated with the Durov arrest, with what's going on in Brazil, which is directed by the American National Security State, both of those.
Right.
Pavel Durov was being harassed by the FBI before this arrest in France. It is very clear to me that they are, and we know the way the Canadian government targeted Jordan Peterson is just another example of it.
Right.
They claim that Donald Trump is going to, use the federal government as a, lawfare against, to arrest or target for prosecution their political opponents. Like, well, that's what you're doing.
Doing already.
You're doing that now.
Yeah. So the lawsuit against the FAA is just an example. I mean, we've got all these other things that are going on with the slowdown of Starship launches by a couple of months over something extremely minor. Is this lawsuit against the FAA? I mean, $600,000 is really a drop in the bucket for SpaceX, but is this sending a message? Is this intending to make new law? What do you think they're trying to accomplish with this?
So first of all, they haven't filed the lawsuit yet.
Oh, they haven't. Okay.
I believe that they will. They sent a letter to Congress. That's the latest thing. Elon has said they're going to sue. My initial reaction was, no, you have to exhaust administrative remedies. And somebody pointed me to SEC versus 𝐒𝐦𝐚𝐲, and there's Loper Bright, which I don't think Loper Bright is another recent Supreme Court decision. I don't think that's directly on point, but still relevant, at least loosely. So I read Loper Bright before. I read the 𝐒𝐦𝐚𝐲 decision, which I had not read before. I think it's if SpaceX wants to accelerate the path of Starship to be able to get to Mars, because we're looking at a 2026 launch window. Right. And we need to test Starships. Right. And if it wants to be able to do that, we need to clear the FAA out of the way. The FAA is, if you read that letter to Congress that they just published today or yesterday, it's late for you today. If you read that letter, it is very clear. There was one example where they requested a minor modification to a launch license, and it took the FAA like 110 days. And it was like some minor thing like we're moving the control room over here. And this I'm sorry, I'm going to swear, this asshat, who's the chief counsel of the FAA, saying, you know, their primary mission is safety. Well,
Yeah.
you know, what you're focusing on was not safety, was not meaningfully safety related. The moves that they were criticizing either had no safety impact or actually improved safety. He didn't, you know, he says our primary concern is safety. No, your primary concern is delay.
Yeah.
Your primary concern is, there's a term I did a seminar, I attended a seminar from one of the top DUI lawyers in New York, DWI lawyers in New York. His name's Peter Gerstenzang. And he had this great point, and I've seen this in my own experience as an attorney in local courts. I've been in like 200 local courts in New York State and some in Florida as well. He said the highest law of the land is, this is how we do things here. It's not the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly, I had a case, there's a clear New York law that a first-time marijuana offense gets dismissed under a certain limit, which my case was clearly under. And the judge said, well, this is a college town and we have problems with marijuana, so we're not going to follow that here. Like, but in the law, they didn't say except in college towns. They didn't say except where judges think they shouldn't do it this way, right? I think it was Oneonta, New York. It's like there are other college towns. You know, there's actually colleges in New York City, believe it or not. Right. There's colleges in Albany. Like, what the hell are you talking about? So, and the problem is that, you know, most cases, most people can't go to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
They can't even go to appeal to the next level court. They just don't have the resources to do that. So the most powerful law in the land is, this is the way we do things here. And when it comes to the FAA, you know, what's really driving that decision-making by the FAA is, we have our bureaucratic way of doing things. And we don't really give a crap about safety. We care about following procedure.
Right.
And how dare you suggest we should change our procedures?
Yeah.
And this is the thing, it's also like, again, passion. I want SpaceX to accelerate. I want Starship to do as much testing as they can. I want Falcon 9 to continue launching Starlinks and not be harassed by the FAA. But it's not just what I want. If you, like, I'm not a big national security nut, right? But I'm not a big fan of the Department of Defense, but the Department of Defense wants Starship.
Right. They've got a 500 contract.
NASA wants Starship.
Yeah. Right.
Right. The science community wants Starship.
Starship, yes.
They ask the astronomers. There's so many interests that want Starship. This Starship is a game changer for the federal government. It's like the federal government is shooting itself in the foot.
Yeah.
Right. And I got to imagine the Space Force generals must be like, what the hell are they doing over there?
Right.
You know, one of the launches, they had approval from the range safety officer at Kennedy, at KSC, at the launch site at Cape Canaveral. Like, why does the FAA have the right to say that this movement of a tank farm, the FAA is for flight, right? The tank farm is on military ground. They moved it. They had the approval of the military to do the changes that they did. It's on a military base. Why is the FAA even getting involved? And that's Elon's point, is regulatory overreach. They're sticking their noses into places that it doesn't belong. They're not interested in safety. They're not interested in accelerating. They're not focused on how do we make things better. They are focused on, this is how we do things here. And honestly, they are focused, and Elon said this, you know, he wants to see the chain of emails because he thinks the Biden-Harris administration directed them to harass Elon. And they do not want that to come out before the election. They don't want it to come out at all.
At all, right.
And it may be that Elon is simply saying, if you don't clear this up, this will be exposed. But, you know, fundamentally, one of the things that really struck me is they don't like free speech on X because it exposes them.
Oh, absolutely.
But fundamentally, they have a political base that doesn't care.
Yeah.
There is a substantial portion of the US population and European, whatever, that doesn't care how dirty the Democratic Party is, doesn't care how dirty Kamala and Biden are. They didn't care about, I mean, sorry, I'm a registered Democrat. I voted for Tulsi Gabbard in the primary in 2020. Okay, I should change my registration, I suppose, but you know, I had intended to change my registration to Libertarian. That's a long conversation, but I voted for Tulsi Gabbard, and one of them, you know, I never liked Joe Biden anyway, but the Hunter Biden serving on the board of Ukrainian Energy. There's all this other stuff you could talk about, the laptop, whatever, and it's all bad. But Hunter Biden served on the board of a Ukrainian energy company,
Right.
getting paid $50,000 a month when he had no experience in energy and no experience in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Why did he get that job? Because his father was vice president.
Yeah.
Right? They were clearly buying influence. And I don't understand how anybody in the Democratic Party, how
Thinks
that
that's not
wasn't
true.
like just a game in the 2020 primary. That should have been Joe, you're out.
Yeah.
We can't have a guy as president of the United States whose son was that compromised.
Right.
Right? He knew about it. He knew he served on the board of a Ukrainian energy company. There's all kinds of dealings with Ukraine. And somehow I literally don't understand Democratic Party voters, how anyone voted for, I mean, I fundamentally think it's United Auto Workers controls a lot of votes, and the DNC itself controls a lot of votes. And, their propaganda machine fires up. It's another thing that I'm passionate about is the extent to which propaganda is effective on the population. And I've worked out a theory about this.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody else say this. So I think this, I've said this multiple times. I don't feel like anybody else is on board with this, or not that anybody's opposed to it. The most educated people are the most vulnerable to propaganda because they consume the most media. Right? It's really simple. Now, educated people tend to think they're smarter than average, and they tend to probably be on an IQ level smarter than average. Okay. And they believe that propaganda exists, and it's being used by the other side on their people.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but if propaganda works, then it can work on you too.
Sure.
Oh, no. It's those other guys over there. I'm too smart for that. Like, okay, well, don't the other guys think that they're too smart for that? Like, what like which, and like, look, I have a master's degree from Stanford University, a law degree, bachelor's in mathematical economics. Like, so you're too smart to be falling for propaganda, but I'm not?
Right.
So if you acknowledge, okay, anyone can be vulnerable to propaganda, and I acknowledge that I can be vulnerable to propaganda, okay? So how do you determine whether you've been fooled by propaganda? And that's a tough one. And I've probably been fooled at propaganda at some point, and I've changed my mind about some things at some point. So my favorite example of the propaganda claims is that Putin is behind all this propaganda, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if Vladimir Putin was behind all this propaganda, wouldn't people think he was a good guy? Wouldn't he want, like, if he was this, colossal madman who had this tremendous propaganda power, it's almost like he doesn't care.
I see. So he would propagandize in favor of his own personal popularity. Yeah.
Well, everyone else, like they'll say that Elon, is focused on his, clearly false, but they will say Elon does all this stuff to pump up his public image. Like if you watch the Countdown Inspiration 4 documentary on Netflix, you barely saw Elon.
Yeah.
He could have said, hey, if you're going to do a documentary about this, I want to be featured. Right. And he did. He was defeatured.
Right.
Jared Isaacman was featured, not Elon.
Right.
Right. Jared Isaacman and the crew featured the crew. Elon barely appeared in the whole documentary. Right. But if you think about it, well, how much money are they claiming that Russia is spending on propaganda in the United States? $10 million?
Well, that was that one special deal. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how much money will be spent in the presidential election alone?
$1 billion per
no, I think it's $5 billion.
$5 billion per party, or five?
No, I think it's probably two plus billion per side. When you include like super PACs and other stuff going on, I think it was 2 billion plus last time. So how much is 50 million out of 5 billion?
Yeah.
It's 100th. Okay. So are they that good at propaganda?
Yeah.
Are the Russians really that good at this, that they're able to sway large masses of people? And then you find out like half their propaganda is pro-Democrat.
Right.
And then supposedly their agenda is to sow divisiveness in the American electorate. Like, I don't think we need their help with that. I think we got that covered. If all they're trying to do is make us hate each other, we do that all on our own. Like, why would you think they're particularly so effective with their spending? And it's like, anything that I don't like is Russian propaganda.
Right.
Right. But then, well, why would Russian propaganda be effective? And where did I just see? Somebody posted something, some Democrat posted something about how Russia fueled this propaganda about blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, your post is the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, right.
The Russian propaganda didn't get to me. The
Yeah,
first time I heard of it when you posted about it. So they're really not being very, and like I consume a lot of media, right? I'm on X all the time.
right,
I don't consume a lot of mainstream media,
right.
right? But I still, I'm vulnerable to propaganda on X like anybody else. I'm on Facebook a tiny bit, Instagram a tiny bit. I'm on YouTube a fair bit. I watch, strength training videos on YouTube, so I don't think I'm getting a lot of Russian propaganda there. Strength training and NBA basketball videos. So I think that political propaganda is fairly low on those topics. Thailand topics.
Thailand. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I watch some videos about Thailand, not as much. I'm really trying to get off YouTube.
Ah,
I wish X would develop a true
I
video,
know. Me too. Absolutely. Absolutely.
both as a content creator and as a consumer. Like
Consumer.
I stopped paying for YouTube Premium,
Oh,
and now I'm getting ads, and I'm like, oh, this
yeah,
sucks.
yeah. Can't do that. No, that's terrible.
No, and anytime I see a video, like an all-in pod video,
Yeah.
I go to X to watch it.
Watch it. Yeah.
I don't watch it on YouTube. I watch it on X.
I'm putting all my stuff up on both, but I get lots and lots of clicks on the ones on X, but not a lot of watches. People I don't think are going to X to watch a 15, half an hour, hour video.
What I find just on the content creation side,
Right.
My YouTube videos on average get more views, more
Right.
real views, and
Right.
the watch time difference is absolutely astonishing.
Right.
The average view time on X is 5 seconds.
Yeah, right.
And the average watch time for me on YouTube is probably 10 minutes.
Right. Right.
So
yeah, I just don't think
that-
we're going there for that.
I think that at some point X will deploy videos.x.com or something like that, and then we'll have and people will go to it's like I feel because like right now I want to go to the X videos homepage.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to go to the video homepage for X and it's not there. I end up going to the YouTube video homepage. And
Sure.
actually I think the YouTube algorithm has gotten worse. It's serving me, like I've watched enough strength training videos now. I'm ready to watch something else, but it doesn't know what else to serve me.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Because on X I interact with so many different topics. I think X could read from my X behavior what else I might want to see, but YouTube doesn't know what else to show me. Their algorithm isn't capable of figuring out what else to show me. So it's Thailand. Like I stopped dating in January.
Yeah.
Right. I found I started seeing my girlfriend exclusively, now my wife exclusively in January. I think it was before the end of January. So it's been several months and they're still showing me dating content.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not interested in that anymore. So it's so I would really like to get on a platform that serves content that I want to see.
Right.
And I just not finding it on YouTube.
When I'm going to say that Elon is so in love with the idea of America, with the idea of the Declaration, of the Constitution, of the freedoms. He was so in love with the concept when he came here. He's so over.
This is my
He will
point.
just work. He will just continue to work as hard as he can to fix whatever it is that one administration might mess
You're
up.
missing my point.
Okay.
Kamala wins, and the idea of America is dead.
Well, I understand that could be a position.
I'm not saying he does it day one.
Yeah.
I'm saying if she starts doing the things that we fear that she's going to do.
So won't you be back and get your rifles out?
No, I think it's over.
Okay.
I look, I'm almost 60 years old. I'm not a soldier.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see myself doing that. I think that there will be enough riflemen who will, that it will not look pretty for the tyrants. But that doesn't mean that they won't keep doing it. That doesn't mean they will let go of tyranny. And they will come for the rifles. They just won't get enough of them.
No.
So I do think there's a serious risk that the idea of I would argue that the idea of America started dying. I don't know if you want to say Lincoln or FDR or LBJ. There's a whole bunch of steps we've gone down the path of destroying America, and I think Kamala is one. And Biden's already doing it, but I think Kamala is one more step. And it's not like just be clear. It's not like I think Donald Trump is this great savior. He just doesn't suck nearly as bad.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of people right now making the case that the reason that they're trying to kill Donald Trump or try to keep him out of office is because he doesn't fit the mold. He's not going to come in and do the deep state's bidding, that he's a rebel, that he's a, they were just talking about that tonight or last week on All In Podcast, as you pointed out, that this is this is why they don't want him, that there's an okay group, the Bushes,
Wait. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
That when I say America is dead,
Mhm.
there were 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump.
Right.
The FBI was investigating the first one. What have they learned so far?
Like nothing.
There should be daily press conferences from the FBI saying, here's what we've learned.
Yeah.
This is absurd. The head of the Secret Service should have resigned immediately. We should know who was the lead Secret Service agent on the team. That person should have resigned immediately. That is like my image of the Secret Service is so shattered. We talk about the loss of faith in institutions in America. Like, one of the most revered institutions in the United States was the Secret Service and its ability to protect the people that it protects.
Right.
And the failings in the Pennsylvania, like the one in Florida, I think the guy was 500 yards away and he had an SKS, which is like probably barely accurate at 100 yards. That guy was not a super threat. But, and they got him, right? He was stopped.
Yes.
But the shooter in Pennsylvania, like, this guy's on a roof 130 yards from the former president of the United States speaking on a platform, and how the Secret Service allowed that to happen is just mind-boggling. And the fact that didn't lead to okay, we need to completely revamp how the Secret Service works.
Well, if Trump had been in office, it would have. Everybody would have been fired. They would have had to start over. I mean,
I don't know. I'm just saying, I have no faith in the CDC.
Yeah.
I have no faith in the FBI.
Right.
I have no faith in I have negative faith in the FBI and the CIA and the CDC. I mean, I now think that the vast majority of the federal government is actively working against the interests of the American people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really, really heavy lift for Trump to fix that.
Yeah. And what happened to the day when the liberals were against big pharma and against big corporations?
And against military intervention.
Military intervention. It's all flipped. It's all flipped.
So in the one thing I will say where I think Elon is a little bit wrong is I don't think it makes us a one-party state, because the Republican Party will adapt
Mm-hmm.
and start trying to appeal to the new voters. That's the nature of our system, is that the middle moves.
Yeah.
Right. And you still end up with a party competition.
Right.
Now, with that said, California is a one-party state.
It is.
New York is a one-party state.
Yeah.
So I might be wrong about that. I think there's a few. Massachusetts is a one-party state. Illinois is a one-party state. So there are some one-party states, and their goal is to replicate that everywhere. And then they've eliminated meaningful primaries within their own party.
Yeah. Yep.
So the party chooses who the candidate is. There's only one party. Now, the other question I don't know the answer to is, how badly have they damaged their own propaganda machine? And I just want to make sure we're okay, because we're over an hour at this point.
Yeah, we're probably about ready to wrap, because I don't think my clientele will watch much longer than this.
Okay. I think that has the propaganda machine gone so far that, like, this concept of gaslighting, like, what percentage of the population now believes they're just constantly gaslighting us? And I think that has grown dramatically. But, I spend a little bit of time on Facebook. I'm mostly on the X platform. On the X platform, I would say the overwhelming majority understand the gaslighting problem. On Facebook, what you just said, I have a friend, hardened liberal, lifetime believer in free speech, all of a sudden advocating against, disinformation, misinformation. The government needs to stop that. And I'm like, you think the government should decide what speech is okay? Like, who are you? And adamant, like, not swayed at all.
Yeah.
Like, determined.
Yeah.
That no, this disinformation, misinformation problem is huge, and blah.
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
And he doesn't really think about the fact that when the Republicans get to power, they get to decide what's misinformation and disinformation.
That's why we can't let the Republicans get into power again.
Well, but I'm just saying, but that would be the next thing I would want to think about, is what happens when I'm on the other side of the on the other side of the power.
It's another thing. This is why I think Zuckerberg might be switching.
Yeah.
I think Pavel Durov's arrest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they realize how much of a signal that was, not just to Elon, but to the rest of big tech.
Yeah.
Like, if you're Mark Zuckerberg and you see Pavel Durov's arrest, you're like, that could be me.
Yeah.
Right? If you're Sergey Brin.
Yeah.
If you're Larry Page, whoever's running Google, you're like, wait a minute. Wait, that could be me.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, like, I think if you're in big tech and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't just about Pavel. This was a message to Elon, and hey, wait a minute, I could be next. Like, I'm shocked that more people don't see that.
Yes.
And there's this, it's partly like, again, it's about the propaganda. Okay, propaganda is extremely effective.
Yes.
These people watch MSNBC, they watch CNBC, they watch NBC News, CNN, whatever. And it doesn't matter. What's really striking to me is it doesn't matter how many times what they are told turns out to be false.
Right.
And it becomes obvious that they were being lied to.
Right.
And, you know, they go back to, was it 2020 or 2016 when Donna Brazile was handing questions in advance to Hillary Clinton's campaign?
Yes.
Like, how did you not immediately decide that CNN is no longer worth watching?
Right.
And they keep watching them.
Right.
Now their audiences are shrinking. Right. There's so many times that they've been caught out for being wrong. And even like, but like the COVID thing, I get particularly passionate about COVID. Of
course.
Okay. Because I lived through it and I never got vaccinated. And I tried to stop and try hard, but I tried to discourage my kids. My kids are adults basically at the time. I tried to discourage my kids from getting vaccinated and they didn't listen to me. And, you know, at the very beginning of the vaccination, you know, we were told, obviously false from the science, but we were told if you get vaccinated, you won't get COVID. Right. From Biden's mouth himself. Right. I think Biden's been vaccinated like 6 times. He's had COVID 3 times. I haven't been vaccinated. I had COVID once. I took ivermectin. I was better in 3 hours. Right. They lied to us. They lied to us. They lied. It was obvious they were lying to us if you did any research at all.
Right.
But people were bombarded with, and you know, so many of my highly educated and intelligent friends bought it. Yeah. I mean, PhDs. Yeah.
Double masked by themselves in their cars.
Yeah, and like they're shy. And I'm like, no, you know better than this. We're the same age. We lived our whole lives without masks. You know better than this. But they just consume a steady diet of mainstream media, and it sways them. It's like, no, you have to do look. And I'm having I had this conversation. My friend Gary is a computer science professor at Rice University. We both went to Rice University. We both went to Stanford. And I'm like, Gary, we're 55 years old or something like that, or 50 whatever years old. Here's our probability of dying in a given year, something like 1 in 150. If you're this age, yeah, actuarial tables say we have a 1 in 150 chance of dying in a year. Right. Okay. We got a 1 in 10 chance of getting COVID unvaccinated. Okay. And there's a 1 in 2,000 chance of it killing us. Right, well, that's 1 in 20,000. What's 1 in 20,000 plus 1 in 150? It's still 1 in 150. This doesn't move the needle. Yeah. It's way more important to drive a safer car. It's way more important. I did cardio this morning, right? It's way more important to do cardio exercise, do strength training exercise, to eat right. All of these things move the needle a hell of a lot more than vaccinations and masks. Right. Because unvaccinated, unmasked, your risk of dying from COVID at 55 is about 1 in 100 is so insignificant compared to that it doesn't move the needle. Right. I think that was the number. It was like 1 in, yeah. So and it's like he's a math guy. And I'm laying out the simple math. Look, here's what Dr. John Ioannidis says is the infection fatality rate. Here's the rough probability of getting infected. Where's my math wrong? He says, no, you should get vaccinated. You should wear a mask. Like, okay, but where's my math wrong? And he's a math guy. Yeah. Like, how do you not see it? Yeah. No, it's all the time. It's all the time. Drives me crazy. So yeah. So I think we should wrap, Warren, because we're over an hour at this point, and I do try to keep the shows somewhere close to an hour. Yep. But I appreciate you coming on and taking us down a bunch of different directions. In particular, you know, I've said it a bunch of times on X. I'll say it 100 times if I have to on this channel, and that is,
freedom of speech is at the top. If we don't have that, all the rest is gone. So if people are going to support anybody for president, if they're going to support Elon Musk or not support Elon Musk, if they take into consideration that that is the number one, it just doesn't matter. If that goes, it doesn't really matter what else is left. So
Yeah.
that is what I would leave with people. And I appreciate you coming on as always. You were, I think, maybe my first or second guest ever back a couple of years ago. And
I'm honored.
there you go. All right. So we'll have to do it again soon. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.
Thanks.